So we've mentioned them a few times. This morning. Heroes. Oh, very loud heroes now. I wonder why we love heroes so much. There are so many of them, aren't they? If you just think of fictional heroes, you might think of Jane Austen's Elizabeth Bennet, Atticus Finch from Kill a Mockingbird, James Bond, we've mentioned this morning, Sidney Carton from A Tale of Two Cities, Roald Dahl's Matilda Wormwood, Elizabeth Salander from The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Or you might think of superheroes. You might think of Batman. Some of you managed that. Spider-Man. Some of you managed that. Iron Man wasn't in it, so that's okay. Superman, Wonder Woman, all sorts of different superheroes. Why are we so fascinated by heroes? Well, somebody wrote, I think when we hear heroes, or we see them, or we read about them, we think about the qualities that we wish we had. Courage, strength, fortitude, bravery. Reading about everyday heroes gives us hope and lets us know that we're not alone in the good fight. The hero lifts us. It redeems what we try to do. The hero provides us an archetype that gives us a direction. Let's go this way and we'll be okay. We'd like to believe that there's a hero gene in all of us. And so we're going to look at two heroes from the Bible this morning. I've named them Captain Jonathan and Lieutenant Armour-Bearer, and you will find them in 1 Samuel 14, and we're reading verses 1 to 16, if you want to find that in your own Bible or Bible app. And you'll also find a set of message notes nearby that will help you as we go through this message together. 1 Samuel chapter 14 and verses 1 to 16. Captain Jonathan's daring plan. One day, Jonathan said to his armour-bearer, "Come on, let's go over to where the Philistines have their outpost." But Jonathan didn't tell his father what he was doing. Meanwhile, Saul and his 600 men were camped on the outskirts of Gibeah, around the pomegranate tree at Migron. Among Saul's men was Ahijah the priest, who was wearing the ephod, the priestly vest. Ahijah was the son of Ichabod's brother, Ahitub, son of Phinehas, son of Eli, the priest of the Lord, who had served at Shiloh. Should have got somebody else to read this. Debbie's sitting there thinking, I'm glad that wasn't me. No one realized that Jonathan had left the Israelite camp. To reach the Philistine outpost, Jonathan had to go down between two rocky cliffs that were called Bozez and Seneh. The cliff on the north was in front of Michmash, and the one on the south was in front of Geba. "Let's go across to the outpost of those pagans," Jonathan said to his armour-bearer. "Perhaps the Lord will help us, for nothing can hinder the Lord. He can win a battle, whether he has many warriors or only a few." "Do what you think is best," the armour-bearer replied. "I am with you completely, whatever you decide." "All right then," Jonathan told him. "We will cross over and let them see us. If they say to us, 'Stay where you are or we'll kill you,' then we will stop and not go up to them. But if they say, 'Come on up and fight,' then we'll go up. That will be the Lord's sign that he will help us defeat them." When the Philistines saw them coming, they shouted, "Look, the Hebrews are crawling out of their holes." Then the men from the outpost shouted to Jonathan, "Come on up here and we'll teach you a lesson." "Come on, climb right behind me," Jonathan said to his armour-bearer, "for the Lord will help us defeat them." So they climbed up using both hands and feet, and the Philistines fell before Jonathan, and his armour-bearer killed those who came behind them. They killed some 20 men in all, and their bodies were scattered over about half an acre. Suddenly, panic broke out in the Philistine army, both in the camp and in the field, including even the outposts and raiding parties. And just then an earthquake struck, and everyone was terrified. Saul's lookouts in Gibeah of Benjamin saw a strange sight. The vast army of Philistines began to melt away in every direction. Amen. As we think about those two heroes, Captain Jonathan and Lieutenant Armour-Bearer, we recognize that the Salvation Army today needs heroes. It needs people to stand up and to be counted. There are currently around 800 active officers in the United Kingdom and Ireland territory. 800. And you know from the Salvationist, you know from people that you talk to, you know from reports that you see, that because we only have 800 officers in the UK and Ireland, there are corps that are unofficered, that don't have officers. In this division at the moment, just in the Central, Southern and Channel Islands division, there's over half a dozen corps that don't have officers leading them. The average intake at William Booth College of cadets over the last few years has been kind of 10 to 15. And we can see from that picture that our Captain Jonathans need Lieutenant Armour-Bearers to join them. It's a bit of a disheartening picture, if we're honest. In the same decade that those figures come from, we've lost nearly 9,000 soldiers, over 2,000 junior soldiers, and over 75 corps have closed. And that's continuing with more to come, I'm sure, over the next few months and years. So we need heroes in the Salvation Army who are prepared to answer God's call on their lives. And this story from 1 Samuel 14 encourages us that God still calls and equips heroes even in the most discouraging circumstances. And we're going to look at some of those discouraging circumstances that Jonathan and his armour-bearer faced. But I don't want to depress you completely. There are positives. There are positives. As far as the division is concerned, you'll remember back to the business day that we had at the beginning of February, we have seen an increase in congregations around the division over the last 2 to 3 years since the pandemic. And we probably all expected it to be the other way around. So we are seeing growth. And in the last few weeks, research has come out to show that church attendance in general in this country is going up by a phenomenal rate, including amongst young people. So we need heroes for those circumstances too. That's the reason we need people to stand up and to answer God's call. But Captain Jonathan, he was a hero in very disheartening circumstances. Israel was at war with the Philistines throughout Saul's reign as king. And to be fair, it had not gone well so far. The Philistines had been victorious. Many Israelites had been disarmed, and some of the Israelites had defected over to the other side, to the Philistine army. Some had simply deserted and disappeared. And Saul's army of 3,000 had dwindled to just 600 men. They were dejected. They were hopeless. They couldn't imagine life getting any worse. So what did they do? You can imagine, can't you? These 600 men all sitting around, all getting disheartened, all whinging about what was going on. Remember how good it was when we had 3,000 in our army? Remember when we were all smart in our uniforms and we all wore the same thing and we all had the same weapons? What are our leaders doing about it? What's King Saul doing about it? What are our captains and our majors or whatever, what ranks they had in the army doing about this? Captain Jonathan and Lieutenant Armour-Bearer's response was a bit different to this. They decided on their own efforts to be heroes. They decided that they would leave the safety of the camp, leave all that groaning and whining and whinging behind, and risk their lives for the cause. They decided that they would go up against the Philistine army, against all the odds, face the enemy, a vast army in front of them alone, just the two of them. Although they realized they weren't alone, that God was with them. They knew, they believed that the Lord could win the battle with only a few. Verse 6 in 1 Samuel 14 says, let's go and see the Philistines. Let's go to the outposts of those pagans. Perhaps the Lord will help us, for nothing can hinder the Lord. And then Jonathan says, the Lord can win a battle whether he has many warriors or only a few. Now, hopefully the red, yellow and blue blood is pumping through your veins since the first song this morning, but that phrase should make the red, yellow and blue blood pump through your veins. The Lord can win a battle whether he has many warriors or only a few. See, if it was really pumping, I'm sure you'd say amen or something in response to that. He can win a battle whether he has only many warriors or only a few. And this wasn't teenage bravado. This wasn't teenage stupidity. Well, let's just go and see what happens. His courage came, or their courage, should I say, came from their faith in God. Captain Jonathan had no one faithful with him, not even his father. All he had was his faithful Lieutenant Armour-Bearer. But he was confident that if he followed God's will, then God could save with a mighty army or with no army at all. How? How were they able to do that? How were they able to leave the safety of the camp and go to face the Philistine army? Because they were focused not on the disheartening circumstances around them, but on taking God's fight to the enemy. They were convinced that God is of such infinite power that he was able to do whatever he needed for his people. I wonder, perhaps as they climbed those rocks that I just, confidently said, whether I knew it was right or not, those two rocks, as they climbed those rocks up to the Philistines, I wonder if they were thinking and meditating on part of God's covenant promise to his people. Leviticus chapter 26 verses 7 and 8 says, "In fact, you will chase down your enemies and slaughter them with your swords. 5 of you will chase 100, and 100 of you will chase 10,000. All your enemies will fall beneath your sword." That was the covenant that God had made with his people. Maybe they had that in mind. But whether they remembered those words or not, they knew that God would be involved in any victory. They weren't counting on their own superior military skills. They weren't even counting on an element of surprise. They said, let's go and stand at them and shout at them. But they simply believed that God would be in whatever they did. And so the challenge to each one of you this morning, whether you're in the hall or whether you're joining with us online, live or later on, is God calling you to be one of the few? Is God calling you to be one of the few? Is God calling you to leave the safety of the camp and go to face the enemy, to take the fight to God's enemy? Captain Jonathan, Lieutenant Armour-Bearer, knew that God could win with many warriors or with only a few. And you may be sitting there this morning and feel that the Salvation Army in the United Kingdom and Ireland territory is slowly dwindling to a few. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I see signs. I see green shoots. You may be shocked that officer numbers have fallen into 3 figures. In fact, I hope you are shocked. But God can be victorious with only a few of us. The question is, will you be one of the few? Will you answer the call? Will you take the initiative like Captain Jonathan and Lieutenant Armour-Bearer did? Do you really know, do you really believe that all things are possible? Do you believe that God can do anything? That's what Jesus taught. It's what the Bible teaches us. But does your life prove your faith that nothing can hinder the Lord? If it does, then maybe God is calling you to be one of the few. To be someone who bolsters the numbers going into William Booth College. To be someone who steps up to be a territorial envoy. To be someone who becomes a paid spiritual leader. Or to become a local officer in this corps. You see, it's very easy to stay like King Saul did. 1 Samuel 14 verse 2 tells us, meanwhile, Saul and his 600 men were camped on the outskirts of Gibeah around the pomegranate tree at Migron. Where was Saul's army? Where were these 600 men? They were further back, behind Jonathan and his lieutenant armour-bearer, up in the hills, away from the fight, out of the line of fire, further away from the enemy. They were safe inside the citadel, if you like, safe inside the barracks. What a contrast. What a contrast to Captain Jonathan and Lieutenant Armour-Bearer. See, it's very easy for us to come into this lovely building, especially now it's had a bit of a spruce up. We can listen to good music, we can play good music, or we can sit at home in our coffee and slippers. No, not in our coffee, drinking coffee. If you're in your coffee, then you've done something wrong. Drinking our coffee and sitting in our slippers, watching worship on television and think, well, this isn't about me. This is about someone else. The lack of officers in this territory has got nothing to do with me. The fact that we have small sessions of cadets, that's not my problem. That's for somebody else to sort out. The lack of local officers or the gaps that we can fill in this corps, that's not my concern. Being an adherent, being on a soldier's roll in this corps, that's got nothing to do with me. Let someone else deal with all of that. We may think that answering God's call doesn't involve me. Or we might think, well, maybe I am called. But think about what it means for me. For Captain Jonathan and Lieutenant Armour-Bearer, it was hard work. It was a hands and feet business. They had to climb. They had hard toil. They had to take risks. It involves sacrifice. And you may think about all of that and go, well, maybe God is calling me, but that's not for me. But friends, our example is Jesus. Our example is Jesus, who said to his Father, if you are willing, please take this cup of suffering away from me. Yet I want your will to be done, not mine. If God is calling you to something, then the only answer we can truly give is, not my will, but your will be done. Your will, what you want for your life, might be to remain comfortable, to be happy with what you're doing, to be happy in your line of work. But God's will might just be for you to step out and to become the next Captain Jonathan or the next Lieutenant Armour-Bearer. That's what happened to me. And I don't tell you that just to big myself up. I give it to you as an example. We had a lovely home. We were well off. I had a good job. I enjoyed my legal work most of the time. I was very happy in the music ministry that I was involved in. But in the end, I could not ignore God's call. In the end, I had to come to a place where I said, your will be done, not mine. And if God is calling you today, if God is calling you to be one of the few, maybe God is calling you this morning to step up, and you've been joining with us here in worship, whether in the hall or online, and God's saying, I need you to take the next step. I need you to become an adherent member, or I need you to become a soldier and to choose to live that lifestyle of a Salvation Army soldier. Then don't delay. Be one of the few. Step up and be one of the few. If God is calling you to take on more responsibility, one of the things that we've set out as a leadership team this year is to try and get more people into local officer positions, to take responsibility, to serve. We are an army. All of us should be mobilized to do something in ministry and service. If God is calling you to step up to that responsibility, then don't delay. Answer, if your will be done, Lord, not mine. And if God is calling you to be a Salvation Army officer, if he's calling you to be a territorial envoy, if he's calling you to be a paid spiritual leader, I'll fill your forms in today. Well, maybe not today because there's quite a lot of them. But over the next few days, I will fill your forms in for you. Don't delay. Say yes. Say to God, I want your will to be done, not mine. Be willing to step out. Be willing to take a risk. Be willing to take the initiative like Jonathan and his armour-bearer did. Prove your faith that nothing can hinder the Lord. There are 800 or so Captain Jonathans that need your help. The local officers of this corps need your help, need you to join them. The question is, are you willing? Are you willing to say yes? It is your choice. No one can force you. Not even God can force you. And so may God bless you and guide you and lead you as you make that choice. Have a look at the screen.
Friends, we read in Scripture, found in John chapter 10, verse 10, these words. Jesus said, I have come so that you may have life in all its fullness. That's for you and that's for me. So here's 10 officers speaking for 10 seconds about the joy of ministry so that the truth of John 10:10 can be experienced by others. So listen up and may God encourage and inspire and challenge you today.
As a Salvation Army officer, God has given me amazing opportunities to love and to serve others of all ages in various parts of the world. And I get to do that with my family. What a privilege that is.
Responding to God's call has been an incredible experience. I have the privilege of journeying through life with so many different people. And better still, every day I see Jesus transforming lives. Best vocation ever.
So training to be a Salvation Army officer is shaping me to be a leader that God has called me to be by being a steward of His time and His gospel to a lost world, seeing lives being transformed by the power of Christ.
Officership enables me to serve others, spread hope, and live out God's love through acts of compassion, faith, and justice.
Since becoming a territorial envoy, I've been able to walk with all types of people, sharing with them the good news of Jesus Christ and living out my calling each and every day.
Officership has given me incredible opportunities to share the Jesus story, helping people on their life and faith journey and coming alongside others when life is tough. What an awesome privilege and what a joy.
I had a career that I trained for and enjoyed, but God called me out of that to officership. But none of that has been wasted. God has used my experience and has helped me and others to bloom wherever He's planted me.
As a second year cadet, I get to explore God's call on my life. I'm excited to go where He sends me, to be where He leads me, and to spread God's love and light to everyone that I meet. In officership, God has taken me to wonderful places and beautiful people who I never would have had the chance to know and love if I hadn't said yes to Him. As a cadet, told myself that I came through God's calling. I fulfilled my comings from His purpose for you. That made me to officership. I responded to His call and encourage you to seek His will.
Being a Salvation Army officer has given me the opportunities to encourage, to inspire, and to challenge others so that the Jesus story is kept alive. How exciting is that?
Those testimonies should get the blood pumping through your veins as well. Officership is a joy. Yes, sometimes there are disheartening circumstances around, but Jonathan and his lieutenant armour-bearer didn't go with their heads down and worried about their disheartening circumstances. They went with joy, knowing that God was with them. And that's what Salvation Army officership is like. It's great. It is the best vocation ever. And if I could sign you all up to it, I would. William Booth once said that every Salvationist should be a Salvation Army officer unless there was a good reason why they shouldn't be. That's interesting, isn't it? Have a think about that. We are going to sing together just this very, very easy chorus. Well, easy, simple, but maybe difficult to sing when we think about what these words say. All my days and all my hours. All my days and all my hours. Whatever it is that God calls us to, whether he calls us to be out in workplaces around our front lines, or whether he calls us to be homemakers or whatever, all my days and all my hours to be God's. All my will and all my powers. God, I'm willing to cede control. Maybe that's the most difficult thing a human being can ever say. All my will and all my powers, all the passion of my soul, not a fragment, not just parts of my life, but all of my life shall be thine, dear Lord, shall be thine, dear Lord. Let's sing this through a couple of times. And if you want to respond this morning, there is opportunity to do so. I think probably the most difficult part of responding to God, whether it's to come forward and to use the place of prayer, or whether it's to say, yes, Lord, now is the time for me to become an adherent or a soldier or a local officer or a Salvation Army officer, territorial envoy, paid spiritual leader. Probably the most difficult part is taking that first step. It actually becomes a lot easier once you take that first step. Why? Because that first step is you saying, yes, not my will, Lord, but yours. If God is prompting you now, if you're sitting there feeling uncomfortable, if there's a feeling in the pit of your stomach that you should be taking that first step, just encourage you to take it. Life will become a lot easier once you're in God's will and doing what he has called you to do. Let's sing the chorus a couple more times. if you've been confirmed in God's call on your life this morning, or if you've taken that first step to say, not my will, but yours, then God bless you. Love to have a conversation with you at some time too. We're going to sing our final song together.
For more positive, practical Bible teaching from Captain Rob Westwood-Payne, search for the Battlefield Podcast's link tree and follow the relevant links.